Michael Theriault testifies he did hit Devontae Miller, but claims he and his brother were trying to defend themselves. Theriault was testifying for the first time today. The Toronto police officer and his brother are both charged with aggravated assault and obstructing justice. Michael Theriault admitting he was responsible for Devontae Miller's serious eye injury, but he says he hit him with his fist, not a metal pipe, and that it was in self-defense. Lorenda Redekop has the latest from the Oshawa courthouse.
Today, the defense began to lay out its case, calling Michael Theriault as its first witness. His lawyer, Michael Lacey, asked, "Did you strike Devontae Miller at any time with a pipe?" Theriault answered, "No, I did not." "Did you strike him at any time with a weapon?" "No, I did not." Asked if he sees his brother hit Miller with a pipe, he also says no. Lacey asks, "Did you see anyone using a pipe that night?" His response, Devontae Miller. At that point, Miller's supporters in the courtroom laugh. The judge quickly quiets the outburst. Lacey asks Theriault if he caused the catastrophic injury to Miller. "Yes, I did." "Lacey, how did you cause that injury?" "With my fist." Theriault says he was in sock feet, smoking in the garage. His brother, Christian Theriault, in shorts. They chased Miller after hearing doors to their parents' truck in the driveway close. He says once he caught up to Miller, he body-checked him. Then says it was Miller who hit him with a pipe. His brother got Miller in a headlock. Miller punching his brother, Theriault punching Miller repeatedly in the face and body. He says he manages to grab the pipe and throws it aside, but at some point later picks it up again to keep it from Miller. The Crown questioned why he never yelled out that Miller was under arrest and to stop. The Crown also suggested a different possibility. Peter Scrutton told Theriault, "I'm going to suggest, sir, is the reason you body-checked him rather than grab him is that your hands are carrying this pipe." Theriault answered, "That's not correct, sir." The Crown asks, why didn't he have any blood on him, given the amount of blood on Miller's face? Scrutton also points to an evidence photo of the door where Miller banged looking for help and suggested a scratch was caused by Theriault hitting with the pipe. Theriault also reported no injuries. The defense wrapped up its case today without calling Christian Theriault as a witness. Court will be back on January 29th for closing arguments. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Oshawa.
Residents at a Toronto community housing building in Scarborough are still in shock after a 2-year-old girl was killed by an air conditioning unit that fell from an 8th floor window. The little girl was with her mother, brother, and sister at the time. Greg Ross visited the building on Lawrence Avenue today and spoke with some of the family's neighbors.
The mother's scream, I will never forget. Like, be honest with you, that's like stuck in my head forever.
This woman, who didn't want to appear on camera, says after hearing the screams, she ran to her window and she was devastated when she realized they were coming from a woman who lives just down the hall. She says the woman was pushing her 2-year-old daughter in a stroller. They were about to enter the building when the little girl was hit by an air conditioning unit that fell from this 8th floor window.
Seeing the stroller, like basically in pieces.
To make matters worse, she says the little girl's 7-year-old brother and 5-year-old sister were also there and saw it happen.
Those kids will be traumatized for life. Like I am traumatized. Can you imagine being them, losing a sibling?
This woman knows the family. She says the mother called her on the phone for help moments after it happened.
All I saw, the baby was inside the ambulance and the mom was yelling. I came and I took the other 2 kids with me and I went upstairs.
Toronto police have investigated. A spokesperson called it a freak accident, but said there was no reason to press charges against the person that owned the air conditioning unit. According to Toronto Community Housing, residents in their buildings must have permission from their landlords before installing an air conditioning unit in their window. And once it is installed, it has to meet with certain safety requirements. Toronto Community Housing say they are also investigating. At this point, they say they aren't sure what caused the air conditioner to fall from the window. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Field police offering a reward tonight in the unsolved murder of a 23-year-old man from last year.
This senseless act of this innocent young man on his way home from work while he was helping support his schooling is a tragic circumstance that we all are having difficulty rationalizing.
Jason Ramkushin was driving on the 410 near Courtney Park Drive on November 13th, 2018. A car pulled up alongside his and someone in that vehicle opened fire, killing Ramkushin. With his family on hand, police today announced a $25,000 reward in the case. Investigators believe Ramkishin's shooting was a case of mistaken identity. Just a week after he was gunned down, there was another shooting on the 410. The victim in that incident driving a car similar to Ramkishin's. Forensics investigators were later able to link the two crimes.
It has been established that the firearm used in the homicide of Jason Ramkishin is also one of the two firearms used in the second 410 shooting on November 20th, 2018.
The person shot in that second incident survived. Investigators believe he was the intended target. Police recovered the gun used in both crimes in an unrelated investigation over the summer. People are reacting with anger and disappointment tonight after someone vandalized the old City Hall cenotaph.
It's disgusting, and the people should be brought to court if they're caught, and a stiff sentence.
Can't believe it. I was here yesterday. There were so many people enjoying this ceremony, and today this.
Police were called about the vandalism early this morning. Someone spray painted the words "Ye broke faith" on the monument, the words referencing a line in the John McCrae poem In Flanders Fields. On the back of the cenotaph, the words "With us" were spray painted. The mayor among those today expressing anger over the vandalism.
It'd be disgraceful any day of the year, but I think the day after Remembrance Day, when people had gone there yesterday and made such a sincere gesture of remembrance and a salute for our men and women who served us is, it's beyond comprehension.
Crews were busy this afternoon removing the damage. Police will review security cameras in the area to track down the vandal. After losing his job for remarks that have been labeled divisive and racist, Don Cherry says he has nothing to apologize for. The 85-year-old hockey commentator says he has been misrepresented and stands by every word. His audience remains divided over the comments and his fate. Simon Dingley has more.
Don Cherry is doubling down, refusing to apologize for his remarks on Coach's Corner last Saturday. Speaking with Jeff Sammet on Sirius XM Radio, Cherry says he offered to clarify his comments, but says that wasn't enough for Rogers Sportsnet.
If I had done certain things that they wanted me to do, I could have kept my job. But if I had kept my job and I had a sort of gone out as a wimp, and people wouldn't have watched Coach's Corner. They would have said, what a wimp he's turned into.
Cherry claims his remarks about Canadians not wearing poppies were misconstrued.
I said, you people, and all of a sudden, like I said, it could have been Irish, could have been Scotch, it could have been Welsh, it could have been anything like that. But they jumped on anything very sensitive.
He takes exception to suggestions Canada has changed, and so should he.
Canada hasn't changed. It's just that the people that follow me keep their mouths shut. It used to be the silent majority. It's the silent minority, and they keep their mouths shut. They do not protest. They do not do this. They do not do that.
Mohammed Hussein says Canada has changed. All three of his kids play hockey.
I'm really tired of having to convince people again and again that, look, I'm not any different from you. I'm a Canadian. I love hockey.
And there's a backlash. People supporting the ousted TV star.
I don't think it was that bad, no. He gave an opinion, and it's freedom of speech here in Canada.
A petition has popped up demanding Cherry be reinstated. And a Russian hockey team is offering Cherry a job on Continental Hockey League broadcasts, tweeting, "We need an analyst for Dynamo TV who could talk whatever he thinks."
On Sunday, Hockey Night in Canada host Ron McLean apologized for Cherry's comments and for not objecting to them at the time. Cherry says he's disappointed in McLean, but maintains they will remain friends. Simon Dingley, CBC News, Toronto.
This Toronto condo dweller with a great view spent more than a year analyzing the city skyline to see just how many units are actually vacant. And the answer was a bit surprising. I'm City Hall reporter Lauren Pelly, and we'll have that story coming up.
Two very common sights across the GTA today. People out shoveling their sidewalks and packed parking lots at collision reporting centers. Police say there were hundreds of crashes during yesterday's snowfall. Talia Ritchie was out talking to some of those unfortunate drivers.
I actually even had time to honk my horn at the guy saying, "Oh, I'm coming."
Most people pulling into this collision reporting center didn't want to be there, but snow happens.
Basically slid into a car because of the road conditions, and then while I was gathering my thoughts after bumping into that car, I was hit from behind by another car.
A steady stream of vehicles, some in better shape than others, made their way to the Scarborough Collision Center today.
I came here at 10:40. 3 hours already, and we didn't finish yet.
According to Toronto police, there were 390 reportees at the collision center yesterday and 230 collision-related calls. Meanwhile, on the highways, OPP responded to at least 400 calls for collisions just in the GTA over the last 24 hours.
That number would be doubled or maybe even tripled across the province.
Most of the crashes were single vehicles and weather-related.
Either losing control, hitting the wall, or going into the ditch. Lots of other collisions involving multiple vehicles. In many cases, shutting down highways, causing massive delays for other motorists.
He has all-season tires, so he cannot stop and hit me in the back.
Some blaming the accidents on a lack of winter tires. The Insurance Bureau of Canada says getting them before that snow hits is a good idea.
Individuals who have snow tires can get a discount on their auto insurance premiums.
But you'll likely have to pay that discount back on your claim if you're in an accident and don't have the winter tires on yet. But for some, that discount isn't incentive enough. There's no mandatory winter tire law in Ontario. We asked the government if that's something they're considering, and they said not at this time.
From a road safety standpoint, winter tires are proven to be more effective and help reduce collisions and help control vehicles.
Officials reminding drivers to slow down as yesterday's snow sticks around. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
You call it, I used to be one of those all-seasonal tire people. Winter tires make a huge difference, especially with the weather we got last night.
When you're going to get that much snow, you got that right. And now we're adding on to that this record cold. So for today, we know for this date, we've already set a record. We just don't know exactly what it's going to be. I say that because this morning it was cold enough. Our record is around -7 in that range. We were in the -8 range, but it's probably as we approach midnight going to get colder than that. So where that number is going to fall, still record cold for this date and record cold coming overnight for tomorrow's date as well, because the overnight low tonight, I'm forecasting we're going down to -13, and the record for the 13th is -9.6. So we're likely going to kind of smash that one, and it's also why the city does have the extreme cold weather alert that's in place, and that has to do as well with the wind chill in terms of it feeling overnight tonight towards tomorrow morning like about -20. These are the current temperatures that we're seeing out there. See what I mean? We're already down there at that -8. You factor in these winds, these west to northwesterly winds, they're driving squalls off the lake, and they're also giving us this wind chill where it feels like we're in the -teens. There are some of those squalls. At times, a few of these flurries have been making their way into our skies through the GTA. There are some watches and warnings in place and some travel weather advisories. We'll show you those coming up a little bit later in the show. We'll also look at the snowfall totals from the event we just had, and when is it going to snow again? There's a few centimeters in the near future, but overnight tonight, there you go, -13, feeling -20. Tomorrow we climb to just -4. Hey, I'll also tell you when we're going to warm up. Lots to come, Dwight.
Oh, we will check back with you for that warm-up. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
So just how many homes and condos are sitting vacant in this city? It's long been a bit of a mystery. So one condo dweller decided to collect his own data by using his view of the skyline. City Hall reporter Lauren Pelly has details on this for us. It's been a year-long project, Lauren. So what is this new research all about?
Well, when you look behind me right now, you can see so many buildings in Toronto. There's cranes in the sky. It sure seems like there's enough units to go around for everyone. But if you've ever tried to search for an affordable condo or rental apartment, you know it can be pretty tough out there. And what's even more frustrating for people that they might not even know about is that some of these units are actually sitting vacant. They're just investment properties. So, as you said, this condo dweller decided to take matters into his own hands and figure out just how many of these places exist.
On and off against a black Toronto sky, most condo lights flicker like fireflies, while others never turn on.
I've always heard the stories about people being like,
you can always look at the lights to see how, if people are living in a building.
This condo dweller with a sweeping skyline view decided to find out the numbers for himself, spending more than a year capturing and analyzing the nightly light show.
I wrote a little script that let my computer do automated photography every 5 minutes, nonstop. And then in the morning I would wake up and I would just download all the photos and process them.
Then he crunched the numbers to find out just how many units could be sitting vacant downtown.
It turns out that it was 5.6%, which was, a lot higher than I thought.
City officials say there's no reliable research, though data on residents' hydro and water usage does show up to 4% of homes, or 28,000 units, are low consumption. That could mean a building is being renovated or the owner is traveling, while in other cases, it's just an empty investment property. A few years ago, Vancouver tried to curb the practice by taxing owners of empty homes.
And I'm open to exploring whether this would be the right measure for Toronto.
That pledge from the mayor was back in 2017. Councillor Anna Bailau says the city needs to speed up efforts to bring a tax here too.
It's actually trying to incentivize people to use homes for what they're actually supposed to be used.
There are so many units that are not being used as housing.
This housing expert says taxing owners could change that if it's done right.
You don't want to penalize people who are not causing the problem. For example, I buy a house and I don't move into it for half a year for various reasons, and the other party has moved out. Well, that's an exception, for example, in Vancouver.
So when it comes to Vancouver's vacant housing tax, it's not yet clear in the past few years just how many units it's brought back into the housing market there. What is clear is that it's raised.
All right, lost Lauren's mic there. All right, she's finished anyway. Thank you, Lauren. Insightful and interesting stats in that story.
We think that social VR is going to be a huge aspect in movies in general because you're not only able to get this immersive experience, but you're able to do it with other people.
A new innovation studio is open at Ryerson University, helping emerging talent and experimental pop-ups get a head start in the tech industry. Take their projects for a spin coming up.
The weather update is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
The Creative Innovation Studio is a new space at Ryerson for entrepreneurs, artists, and media makers. The idea is to allow teams to collaborate with others across creative industries. I spoke with a couple of entrepreneurs about their projects and how they're working with others at the studio to break new ground.
Move your head up and down and around.
So what is on the screen so as I'm moving, is it then showing up on the screen exactly what I'm looking at?
So if we had 100 people connected, we'd see 100 little screens of everyone connected.
We think that social VR is going to be a huge aspect in movies in general because you're not only able to get this immersive experience, but you're able to do it with other people. So you're able to go with your mom or your boyfriend or whoever and have this really cool immersive experience together as a group.
The way we have it set up is if you're at an event, you'd go sit down in your seat, you'd have an attendant help you put on your headset, and you're put in this fantastical 3D waiting room almost. We make a really cool 3D modeled space, and then once everyone's connected to the headset, you know, just like a movie theater, we hit play, and then everyone in the same room gets to watch the same movie all at the exact same time, and they're put into the experience.
Are we inside the movie together, or are we inside the movie separately?
We're in the movie separately, but we can all watch at the same time. So in the waiting room, you can see each other. But as soon as the movie starts, it kind of dissolves, and now you're in the movie as a passive viewer.
What are you hoping the take-up in this will be for the future?
I think more social experiences. Right now, we've just synchronized these experiences, but now I want to have more interactive experiences, more like almost video game-like experiences. Maybe that is within movies, like maybe you have some full interactivity in movies, or maybe it's just games or like social experiences, like you'd meet up with friends after work or after school and you'll be in like a 3D world and you can kind of do whatever you want. A little bit better than just staring at a screen and scrolling through Facebook.
Here at the Innovation Studio in Ryerson, it's crazy. You know, FCAD, it gives us an opportunity to not only explore our creative ideas, but also to collaborate, right? Like there's so many different, you know, types of creatives in this space. And when we work with them, because we've worked with one named Controverse, they helped us with a VR experience for Carnival.
You took Controverse to Carnival this
year. We took them to Carnival, and they loved it. So I think they're going to be going every year going forward. But that's what this space kind of breeds, right? Collaboration, excitement, and new output from the creatives.
How are you mashing up this traditional carnival with this brand new technology and coming up with this?
All right, so we're innovating it, we're fusing it. So much like ourselves, we're first generation Canadians, right? Yeah. So we connect the old to the new, and that's what we're doing with Carnival. So think of, you know, 3D printed headpieces, elements of that infused in the headpieces. Think traditional wire bending is also being highlighted because we want to keep that integrity alive, but also, you know, laser cut fabric, laser cut acrylic, newer materials such as Warbler we've infused into these costumes.
These pieces right here are laser cut acrylic that we then heat form to look like a 3D ink splash. The tentacles on the headpiece were done with a 3D printer. There's laser cut elements there as well.
Now, I'm guessing you may be getting a little pushback from some of the traditionalists to say, a printer to help make costumes for Carnival? There must have been some kind of pushback on that.
This came about because we heard from them time and time again saying young people aren't taking up the traditional wire bending or skills necessary to produce masks. So we're like, okay, if it was built on what was around us, you know, back in the 1800s, well, if we look around today, we'd see 3D printers. Yes. We would see computers. We'd see CNC machines. You know, so let's incorporate that into today's world. Again, finding that balance between the foundational, you know, those skills, the techniques, and the new and the innovative.
We really want to make sure that Carnival history is a part of what we're doing. And when they started hearing the stories and hearing a lot of the, you know, the techniques that we put into some of these costumes, the pieces, we have the words liberation and emancipation and freedom laser cut into fabrics into these pieces. When they heard that, we've gotten a great response from the old guard.
Congrats, guys.
Thank you. Yes. All right. Appreciate your time as well.
I still can't get over using a 3D printer for Carnival costumes. I just think that's so cool.
Get used to it.
Yeah,
get used to it.
We're not happy with what is going on, and we've been fighting it for a very long time, and nobody's listening. And I don't want for somebody to get hurt before change takes place.
A group of seniors and people with disabilities are speaking out, hoping to move an LRT transit stop closer to home. We'll bring you more on their fight after the break. A home in the Yonge and Eglinton area was seriously damaged by fire earlier today. Crews were called to the scene on Keewatin Avenue around 6 a.m. The back of the house was engulfed in flames, which eventually spread to the rest of the home. At one point, around 60 firefighters were helping to get it under control. There were no injuries reported. Gun control advocates and medical professionals gathered at City Hall today calling for a national ban on handguns and assault weapons.
I have experienced firsthand of losing a child. And losing a child is a devastating issue for the parents, for siblings, and for the whole community. I call all levels of government to do something about it.
The gathering happened just before a Toronto Board of Health meeting where officials approved several measures aimed at taking a public health approach to gun violence. That means improving programs and resources tackling the root causes. The board also put some recommendations forward to City Council. In 2 weeks, they'll decide whether they should urge the federal government to approve a nationwide handgun ban.
Significantly improved national gun controls are an element in dealing with gun violence, which is a problem not just in Toronto, as well as changes to the bail laws, as well as investments in communities, which is something, again, that I raised very specifically with the Prime Minister when I spoke with him in the last couple of weeks.
During the election, the Liberal government promised to prohibit some assault weapons and allow cities to ban handguns, but stopped short of a national ban. According to police stats, Toronto is on pace to set a new record for shootings this year. Construction hasn't even started on it yet, but a light rail transit project in Mississauga is already stirring up controversy. The Hurontario LRT will run through the city, extending to Brampton, but one local community group is questioning why Metrolinx is placing one of its stops 1 kilometer away from where thousands of seniors already live. Farah Morelli has more.
These days, getting around can be a challenge for Sheila Bricks. She's 77 and relies on this cane or a walker. She welcomed the news of light rail transit coming to her neighborhood until she learned where it was going.
That distance would be impossible for me to, that 1 kilometer would be impossible for me to get to the LRT.
So you'd have to cross the
yes.
street.
Bricks is part of a group that's fighting to change the proposed LRT stop at Eglinton. Their point, thousands of people currently live in the buildings south of Eglinton, and making them walk hundreds of meters north doesn't make sense.
It is a very big challenge. It's a long walk, and especially in the winter when there's ice on the ground, and that sidewalk is very rarely shoveled properly.
The Hurontario LRT will begin at the Port Credit GO station and continue north along Hurontario all the way to Brampton. It's an estimated 18 kilometers long. The stop in question is at Eglinton Avenue West at Hurontario. The group is arguing this stop should be further south at Kingsbridge Garden Circle to be closer to the buildings where thousands of seniors live.
I mean, it's just a no-brainer. Think about this. There are people living here already now, and there's a question was asked, why are they not listening to us?
So the stops are firm and final.
But Metrolinx says this is a done deal, and factors like current and future density and links to other transportation corridors had to be considered.
If we arbitrarily start choosing a location that doesn't meet any of the criteria that was set through the whole planning process, then others would have the same claim, then why not me? And this project, and like any other project, you have to look at what is reasonable and what is the best value that can be offered to the two cities without compromising the core integrity of the system.
Metrolinx says the LRT won't replace the existing buses that already run in the area, but the group says that's not good enough.
I am upset because we are not happy with what is going on, and we've been fighting it for a very long time, and nobody's listening.
The line is scheduled to open by 2024. Farah Morelli, CBC News, Toronto.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau sat down with Conservative leader Andrew Scheer today. It's the first time the two leaders have met face-to-face since the election campaign. Both are looking for areas of cooperation.
It's up to Mr. Trudeau to find common ground to get his throne speech passed. So I highlighted the areas that we would be focusing on, the parts of our platform that we believe should be implemented.
The Liberals were reduced to a minority government in the election. That means Trudeau will need opposition support to pass legislation. Scheer says it's possible both sides could back tax cuts, enhance maternity benefits and transit funding. He also said tackling Western alienation was a priority for him. Trudeau is meeting with NDP leader Jagmeet Singh on Thursday. Parliament returns December 5th when MPs will elect a new speaker, followed by the speech from the throne. Tomorrow is shaping up to be a big day in Washington. The top job in the White House is under fire. All eyes will be on Congress, where witnesses in the impeachment inquiries will arrive for the first public hearings. Democrats and Republicans are strategizing behind the scenes. Ellen Morrow is in Washington with a look ahead.
President Trump tried to keep it business as usual today, touting his presidency with a familiar refrain.
We have delivered on our promises and exceeded our expectations by a very wide margin.
But it's a presidency under threat. Today, Republican lawmakers received this 18-page memo. In it, the Republican plan for defending President Trump as public impeachment hearings get underway tomorrow. Essentially, Republicans are going to argue that nothing bad happened, that President Trump was not abusing his power, that he was genuinely concerned about corruption in Ukraine, and that none of what happened is an impeachable offense. So all in all, nothing to see here. For the Democrats, the impeachment hearings are all about getting the testimony of former and current top officials working on Ukraine policy out there for the entire country to see. They want Americans to hear from these officials who are expected to say that much needed military aid to Ukraine was frozen in order to force Ukraine to dig up dirt on Trump political rival Joe Biden and his family. The Democratic argument is that Trump and those around him abuse their power for their own political gain, and that's the case they want to build live on TV. Right now, Americans are split on whether impeachment should go ahead. The question is whether these hearings will change public opinion enough that Republican senators actually have to consider voting against President Trump should impeachment pass in the House and wind up in a trial in the Senate. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Washington.
He accomplished what he wanted to do, what Masai wanted to do.
Nothing but love.
We love him.
Kawhi Leonard, the former Raptor, takes on his former team for the first time in his hometown. We'll bring you the details of last night's game coming up. And after I finished shoveling, Khaled, I took in the game. It was a good one. No hard feelings. We still like our Kawhi.
We still like our Kawhi. It was a good one. It could have been slightly better, Dwight.
Right? Slightly better. Kind of like the weather, Khaled, even though we're breaking records right now.
Yes, we are with the cold that we're seeing. So we are going to have a record low overnight tonight as we head towards tomorrow morning. So definitely you need to keep that in mind tomorrow to get yourself bundled up because the wind chill is going to make it feel like minus 20. With the event, we'll call it an event we just had with the snowfall. A look at some of the totals. So over 20 centimeters for St. Catharines, Windsor and Oakville, nearly 20 centimeters, Hamilton 17, downtown Toronto and Whitby. In fact, Whitby, it was 15.5. And at Pearson, 13.6 centimeters of snow reported. With the snow on the ground, this is the current temperature, -8, and it's -9 in Hamilton, slightly warmer in St. Catharines at -5. But you factor the winds in, and this is how it feels. And as I say, we're really plunging through the overnight. An extreme weather advisory for the city, too, for the cold weather, that alert that's in place. These are some of the watches and warnings with those winds coming across Lake Huron. So snow squall warnings, lots of poor travel conditions. There could be 10 to up to locally 30 centimeters in some of these areas. And some weather travel advisories even coming a little further inland because some of these squalls making their way inland just quite so far, and suddenly you get into some of these whiteout conditions and reduced visibility, and even some of those poking towards the GTA into the evening hours. But overnight, we become mostly clear towards tomorrow morning with that cold start. Late in the day tomorrow, this next system will come through. Overnight Wednesday into Thursday. Looks like it may hang in a little bit longer on Thursday. Likely just a couple of centimeters, but I was just checking, and the Canadian model wants to double that. Still much less than we just had, but of note, there you are. Records overnight tonight dropping to -13. Tomorrow afternoon climbing to just -4. Can't get above freezing until we get to Thursday. The temperatures come up a few degrees. Saturday they plunge again, and then Sunday will begin a gradual climb once again. That one's looking a little bit better as we go into the beginning of next week, Dwight.
Time of year when 2 degrees looks great.
Yes, and by the way, Santa Claus parade this weekend. That's why it's there. It's not Christmas.
Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
For Canadian basketball fans, it was a bittersweet night. It was the first game this season between the Toronto Raptors and the LA Clippers, which is the new home of Kawhi Leonard, who famously led our Raptors to the NBA championship. But as Kim Brunhuber tells us, for Toronto fans in LA, there were no hard feelings.
Kawhi Leonard said it's like any other game. He said
if the crowd was expecting an angry grudge match, a game of insults and sharpened elbows, they didn't get it. This moment says it all. When Kawhi Leonard was introduced to the Staples Center crowd, Clippers fans roared, and so too did almost everyone in Raptors red and black, still grappling with seeing Leonard in another team's uniform.
Painful.
Painful? He was good to us. We're happy for him.
No, but
It's okay. We're still strong.
Move on. You've got to grieve properly. We're grieving.
what a pass by Leonard and another.
Leonard still has ties to the Raptors, still talks with some of his former teammates. But once the game tipped off, the Raptors say he was just another opponent, one they knew inside out. Raptors coach Nick Nurse said he stayed up late to devise a scheme to make life difficult for Leonard. It worked, to a point. Leonard went 2 for 11 from the field, 0 for 4 from 3, but still the Raptors lost. For many Raptors fans who flew from Canada to LA just for this game, the whole experience was bittersweet.
We knew he wanted to come home. He came to the city. Guys, I think you all agree that he accomplished what he wanted to do, what Masai wanted to do.
Nothing but love.
We love him.
Leonard may be a Clipper now, but he will be a Raptors legend forever.
We the North!
We the North, we the grateful.
We the North!
Kim Brunhuber, CBC News, Los Angeles.
Wanted to help inspire people just going after their goals and be the best version of themselves every day. Never lose faith.
To then transcend athletics. You may know them from their social media feeds. Coming up, we'll speak to some of Canada's top Instagram influencers. That panel discussion after the break. Social media has become something that's part of our everyday lives, but what about people who make a living off of it? It is Social Media Week. CBC Toronto is a sponsor, and today I hosted a panel discussion with 3 influencers who try to inspire people through Twitter and Instagram. Here's a little bit of our conversation.
Started off not really knowing what I wanted to do.
I was really into fashion, still am, into graphic design, videography, photography.
Which you were studying in school, by the way.
Yeah, for university. I'm still in my last year. Gotta get that degree.
That's his mom talking.
But I just loved the way that I was able to express myself in a digital way, and I guess that's kind of how I.
So it looks to me like you took what you were studying and you took your love for dance and graphic design and you kind of smashed them together and came up with this. That kind of created it for yourself.
For sure.
Because there was nobody else really doing that. And Alicia, I mean, a lot of athletes are out there, they try to do this, but you seem to have a big following. People are really drawn to you. How did you start this journey in your social media journey?
Yeah, I think it was different for me because I felt like I was in the public eye through track. And I think the first original time when I started feeling like I was influencing people was comments from people I didn't know. Like before it was our best friends, our family members and stuff. And then I had people from all over the world like, thank you for motivating me.
A new perspective, give me a new way of looking at my situation.
Life, I feel, is so short, and we are so drawn to do, work a 9-to-5 job, and we are supposed to do this. We were raised that way, where now our world's changing. And that's kind of where I got motivated in it, and I was like, you know what, I can do track. I can inspire people to go after their goals. It doesn't need to be track and field or pole vault, because, I mean, who wants to pole vault? That's crazy as hell. So at the end of the day, I think coming across as an athlete, being on the, athletic world, I wanted to help inspire people just going after their goals and be the best version of themselves every day. Never lose faith.
You to then transcend athletics, because a lot of people who follow you aren't really into pole vaulting.
Yeah.
And she's a really good pole vaulter. Like the way she stands, and upside down, I don't even know how she does it. I'm not even gonna try that. Scott, you're a real estate guy, right? Because I know you're a contractor.
Yeah, I've kind of done a number of things, and I'm kind of the guy up here who's, too old to be an influencer, but too young to ignore it. And if you don't know who I am, ask your mom, okay?
I just made him send a video to my mom.
I just sent a video to her mom.
I was like, she's so excited.
It's always nice when you meet someone, they're like, oh my God, my mom's such a big fan.
I hate when they do that.
What the hell's wrong with you?
Oh, my grandma loves you. I hate that.
That's when I know I'm in trouble. It's just the grandmas. I've done a lot of things. I got started as a landlord 20 years ago. University student. I ended up buying a property, renting it out to my,
man. We know the story.
I bought a house and rented it out to my friends, and there was no social media. The internet was a bulletin board at the off-campus housing office, and went on from there to buy, renovate, become a contractor. I got a call from a friend to help out on a show because I was a contractor, and I just I showed up and I was like, wow, look at this whole TV thing. I was never meant to be in TV, but I was.
Well, it doesn't hurt to have a face for TV, right, folks?
Yeah, serious.
There you go. Oh, thank you. To kind of see where we are, it's like the Wild West right now.
It really is.
The opportunities are so massive, I don't even think, the way you're gonna make the most money through social and digital channels doesn't exist yet. But if you wait for it to happen, it will be too late. You gotta start now. You gotta kind of exploit what you're doing at this moment, whether it's being a good landlord or being a TV host or being on social and digital and making a difference. The problem is that you're asking for money. I've never asked anyone for money. I show people opportunities.
Do anything that you want to do, but remember that it's gonna take a lot of hard work and dedication is always the top of mind. That nothing can stop you from walking your power. You just have to continue to be yourself and not let what other people think of you affect you.
Mandalorian, look outside. They are waiting for you.
A look at the new Star Wars live-action series, The Mandalorian. It debuts today on Disney's new streaming service, Disney+. The platform is offering some serious blockbuster content, but will it make a dent in the already overcrowded streaming universe? We'll have details for you coming right up.
They are waiting for you.
Disney launched its highly anticipated streaming service today. It features the Star Wars franchise as well as titles it removed from Netflix, but it looks like there were some technical glitches. Yelena Adzik is here to take us through the story. So what is Disney saying about the big launch?
Well, this is kind of funny because people are, they're experiencing problems. I'll give you a look at how it looks to get on. And some people who do log on, they're experiencing problems accessing the shows they want. And then others who want to get on and they get their shows, they don't have audio. So there have been all kinds of tech glitches, yes. And so in response, Disney is saying, what of course they're going to say, well, there was just such overwhelming demand.
I knew it.
It was even more than we thought it was, so we just couldn't keep up with it, which, of course, I have a feeling someone's getting fired today. But yeah, there was definitely glitches that a lot of people were talking about online. But okay, so let's talk about what is on there, because it is a lot of what you would expect, sort of the Disney modern classics. So you got your Moana, for example. But you also have a lot that we know of from the Marvel Universe, right? So you've got whether it's Avengers, Iron Man, the list goes on and on. So that is something that people would expect, and it's there for you. So the question remains is, are people going to be paying extra for it? Because, of course, Dwight, even though they tried to price it at about $1 less than Netflix, it's still going to add to your monthly bill, right?
Yes, it will. And will they be including other titles too, other than the ones you just mentioned there?
Well, okay, let's go back in the vaults, okay? So the older titles, they are going to be there, but in some cases they are slightly adjusted. So this is Little Mermaid, for example, that's there. But then something like Lady and the Tramp, 1955. Well, there's a song, the Siamese Cat song. Well, Janelle Monáe, the musician, she's going to do a bit of a reboot, so a different song there. They're also doing certain things like just removing scenes. The Jim Crow scene from the 1941 film Dumbo, that one's gone. But then one is gone altogether, Song of the South. Okay. Yeah, and this is one
I'm good with not seeing that
Yeah, I think so. 1946, and just utterly racist depictions in there. So a lot of people are saying that it makes complete sense that a lot of this is not going to be there.
This market feels like it's already oversaturated. We're adding Disney to it. How will Disney then separate itself from the Apples and the Netflix out there?
Well, yeah, it's so fascinating because they have more money than any of them.
Yes, they do.
And it's just one of those things where they're putting on fresh content, but is it really going to attract an audience? In some cases it might. Star Wars, for example, The Mandalorian, they've got a TV show, and this kind of is set after the fall of the Empire. But what's interesting, Dwight, is that unlike Netflix, which lets you binge, that one is going to be released one at a time.
No.
Yeah. Then this, what you're getting a look at here, Frozen 2 is going to be out in theaters, of course, but so the only place you'll be able to see Disney movies that were in theaters at one point will be on their streaming channel. So one of the voices in this movie, a lot of people know Kristen Bell. Well, she is a producer for another show that is going to be on Disney. It's called Encore. Now check this out, Dwight. It's an interesting premise. They take people who were in a high school musical and put them together many years later to recreate the musical. And so it's either really, really good or really, really bad. It's a bit of a reality show meets Glee kind of thing. Have a listen to how Kristen Bell describes it.
We've got millennials and we've got baby boomers, people who haven't seen each other in 45 years. No extraordinary talent required. This is about real people and sharing an experience. And when they come back together, they're making amends, they're saying things they wish they had said in high school, they're having shed the labels that they were given, reintroducing themselves to people that they already know.
I just really like that line, no extraordinary talent required. I think that's going to be an interesting one. So so that's one example of how they're trying to freshen it up and offer something new. But I mean, is your family going to do it?
My kids are older, so I think not. But I think that Kristen Bell show is kind of interesting. I played the portly gentleman in the Christmas Carol. Maybe I'll get back together with my high school and we'll recreate it.
Did you? Oh my goodness, I would pay to see that.
Thanks, Yelena.
Talk to you soon.
Oh, what is, we love you, Alex. That's very kind. Thank you. Cost you $19.95. You're left with $5. Okay.
And you know we do love Alex Trebek. An emotional moment for him last night. A contestant surprised the Jeopardy host with his answer, "We love you, Alex." Trebek has been outspoken about his ongoing struggle with pancreatic cancer. He recently revealed he's having another round of treatment. Trebek grew up in Sudbury, Ontario, and got his start here at the CBC. He's been the face of Jeopardy for 35 years. The show is holding a special episode to raise money for pancreatic cancer later this week. And yes, we do love you, Alex. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Yeah, Christy.
Here's someone who used the November snowfall to their advantage. Yes, this snowboarder is shredding powder in a parking lot in Markham. She was holding on to a rope, being towed by a truck, riding through the flurries there. We got this yesterday. It may not be the slopes, but it sure looks like fun. I think I saw you doing that on the water this summer, just like that, too. Yes.
I need 2 skis. Yeah,
do that.
yeah, that's for sure. Well, we're going to need some extra layers tonight. I don't know, maybe, toque, mitts, everything.
It's all I've got the toque,
I've
got the and yes, I'm wearing my coat.
Thanks. I'm glad to hear that. It's serious when we have temperatures actually that fall this low. So you can get into a situation where you're looking at some frostbite because overnight tonight, -13, but with the winds feeling -20, so that can be treacherous. Tomorrow afternoon, we'll climb to -4. It will be late tomorrow, so into the evening. We have this next system fairly weak that is approaching, but it lingers into Thursday. So Thursday may really be a messy, messy day on the roads. It had looked like just the morning, but possibly it's going to be the afternoon commute as well. And a few centimeters at least, it's looking like now from this one.
Oh, boy. No fun. That's it for us tonight. Thank you for watching. Mike has you covered at 11. We'll see you back here tomorrow.